Hey everyone! I don't know about you, but I absolutely had a blast watching Season 2 of The Holo. But I was left with so many questions, as I am sure those of you watching were as well. But you are in luck because today I have a special video for you, which is an interview with the creator of The Holo, Vito Viscomi. I asked him some of the biggest questions about the season, such as what he thinks about how the characters ended up, and if there's a plan for more. There's a lot of new information here, so make sure to watch the whole thing. This is of course a spoiler interview, so here's your warning. I do plan on releasing a season review eventually, so make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to do that. Also, I did release this early on my channel's Patreon, so if you'd like to get access to other interviews and videos early, as well as to support the channel, you can do so from there. Now, let's get started. Thank you so much for joining me today. Right now I'm talking to Vito Viscomi about the show The Holo, which he helped create.
Hi, Hailey.
And so I have quite a few questions, some about, the making of the show and some about the lore of the show, and it seemed like you would be a great person to talk to because Season 2 was amazing, and I think people have questions about it, so hopefully we
Thanks.
can get some
Maybe they can answer some of the questions I have for Season 2.
Oh, you have some questions too?
No, I'm kidding.
That'd be funny. But yeah, tell me a bit about yourself and how you came to this current job.
Sure. Well, I started off in sketch comedy out of college, formed a sketch comedy troupe, and we had some success in Toronto and then Canada, and then eventually ended up from there getting work writing on different shows in New York. Shows like, let's see, what was I working on? I was working on the Howard Stern show in New York and some MTV shows. Writing for that, and then moved to LA and then started writing on shows like Jackass and Tom Green Show. So I was always writing, but in the meantime, while I was doing that kind of live action writing, I was approached by someone representing Studio B out of Vancouver, an animation studio, and they asked me to write some stuff for them. So I started writing animation for them, and through that, I ended up meeting my current business partners and creators on The Holo, Kathy Rocchio, Greg Sullivan, and Josh Meffam. And through that, we decided to start doing our own thing and seeing if we could sell our own shows, and we started pitching ideas and coming up with show ideas and seeing if we could sell something, and we did. And then through that, we opened Slap Happy Cartoons, and eventually we were able to create The Holo.
That's awesome. Quite the journey.
Yeah, hopefully it's not over.
Yeah. Oh. But I was informed that you kind of came up with the idea for The Holo, right? So could you tell us how that happened?
Sure. The way the four of us work is usually someone will come up with a concept, and then from that we develop it together and work on it until all four of us go, yeah, this is something really cool that we can stand behind. The Holo, the initial idea was me literally just walking by my son who was playing, I forget what he was playing, but a video game, and I stood there and I thought, oh, that would be kind of interesting if you were in a video game, but you didn't know you were in a video game. And then through that, I sort of wrote up the concept and made it a mystery, so that way the audience wouldn't know that they're in a video. Nobody knows that they're in a video game, hopefully, but they would discover it through the journey, and then complications arise and all the rest of it. So that's the initial concept. Was really simple. It was just sort of, oh, that would be kind of cool. And then from that, we just developed it.
So were you basically just inspired by your son, or were there anything like properties or other shows or franchises that kind of piqued your interest that you want to kind of work with?
If my son is listening, he always inspires me. So yes, I was inspired by my son. But no, other shows that kind of, Over the Garden Wall is something that we always looked at as being sort of a blueprint of sorts for this kind of show. We weren't sure whether there'd be a second season. Basically, we pitched the concept as a standalone with the idea that, if it's popular and if people discover it and if Netflix wants more, we have an opportunity to go a second season and hopefully a third and maybe fourth, whatever we have an idea of where we're going with the story. So that was always a possibility. It really comes down to the business side of things, which is, if the show doesn't do well, they're just not going to order more. So that's, so, and we're a small studio. We're not DreamWorks, where they can demand more seasons. We're an untested small studio out of Canada with, kind of a quirky idea. So it made sense for them to take a chance on us, but not take too much of a chance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I was definitely gonna ask about that if you already had like season 2 planned or if you knew it was gonna happen, so you could write the ending of season 1 to relate to season 2. But it seemed like you guys didn't really know if that was gonna happen,
We
right?
we weren't sure. We left an opening where we knew where we could head and go down the path that we were hoping to go down, which was
Hmm.
season two. But we didn't know, and it's just again, it's the nature of the business.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I'm so glad. I'm sure a lot of other fans are super glad that it did get a season 2 because I think it's even better
Well,
than season 1.
thank you for watching season one because
Hmm.
it's because of that, all of the viewers and the word of mouth that has gotten this to this point.
Hmm. Well, how was the experience of making the show? Was it tough or was it pretty much like other shows, or just how was it throughout
Well,
the
it
season?
was for our studio. It was a departure. I mean, the show that we did previous to this was something called Nerds and Monsters, which is very silly, broad comedy, and this has mystery and
Hmm.
drama and there's helicopter going by. I don't know if you can hear that, but this one is different. It's serialized to begin with, which is something that we hadn't really done before. Um, just the themes, the characters, even the animation, the amount of action that we do in this series compared to what we were used to as a studio was a departure. So there was a lot of new things for us, but it was also extremely exciting and fun to do. A lot of work. A lot of people put in a lot of work on this show. Um, they bled for this show, and I hope it shows. I think that it's something that we're very proud of.
Yeah, definitely one of the things that first intrigued me, like getting into the show, like, wow, this is something that you don't see too often. Like, especially with like Western animation, the serialized format. It's still pretty rare, especially with this level of mystery and like it's not for it has a little bit of older demographic, I'd say. That's from
For
what I could
sure,
tell. Yeah.
and I think that's what we were trying to do is make a show that hopefully was attractive to a lot of demographics. It's not just
Hmm.
a kids show, and the other thing too is just the nature of how television is now with streamers and digital networks, where it is about binging. It's not like, oh, next week another episode is going to drop, and we consciously decided to do cliffhangers at the end of every episode, so that way you'd want to binge it, you'd want to watch the next episode, you wouldn't lose interest. So yeah, so all those things were new to us. It was new to a lot of people, I think. But I think that it's done well. What we were hoping to achieve, I think, we've achieved to some degree anyway.
Hmm. Yeah. So this might be a bit of a tough question, but do you have a favorite character from the show?
Yeah, that is a pet. No, okay. Well, I mean, do you have a favorite pet that you? No, I'm just kidding.
I know. Yeah, that's why I'm afraid to ask this question.
Yeah, I don't. I no, I do. They're like children. You love them all. They all have their own flaws and strengths and everything. But I wouldn't want. It was tough. Well, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it was tough losing a character this season because.
Well, I mean, this is a post season 2
Okay, all
interview,
right,
so
yeah.
yeah,
So I mean,
I'm gonna ask
we
some.
didn't really get to know Skeet all that much,
Hmm.
but he was really likable, especially in second season. First season's a little different. They don't have their memories. You don't
Yeah.
know much about who they are, and that's why we really enjoyed doing season two, because it was a departure from season one. We were able to explore a bunch of different things, and one of the things that we could explore was Skeet. And unfortunately, as soon as we started exploring him, he kind of went away. So,
Yeah. I was
yeah.
getting to
So
like him.
it's I don't have a favorite, but yeah, it's they're like children.
Fair, fair. So what about a favorite power, or is there a power that you think you would choose? What would be your favorite one to choose if
Hmm.
you had to?
Maybe growing because I'm only 5'6". Maybe Iris's power there. Yeah, maybe
Hmm.
that one. No, I'm kidding. I honestly, they all have their pros and cons, I guess. I'd be happy with any of those powers.
Yeah. There's a lot of like, really nice ones. But speaking of powers, one thing that I've been talking about with a couple of people is that it seems like our main three characters kind of have secondary powers, something that it's not really acknowledged fully. But are these kind of paired up with the ones they chose, or is this random, or are they just special? Or have you thought about this?
Well, no, we've definitely thought about that. There are different ways that we want to. I'd like to leave some mystery because there's
Mm,
certain things that we don't. I don't necessarily want to answer here, but yes, we definitely know. That, I can't explain everything. There are ways of explaining some of the things, but if we do have if we're lucky enough to have another season or
hmm.
two, we want to answer some of those questions that are
Cool.
there.
So another thing that I think I saw online a bit, but I'm not 100% sure, and maybe just some confirmation here if we can get it, is do you know the ages of our main characters?
Yes, let me think. Yeah, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, Kai is 14, Mira's 15, maybe 15 and a half, and Adam's 16. So Adam and Mira went to school together, and that's how they know each other.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. How did you come up with all the crazy scenarios and locations for the show?
Well, I mean, it's actually it's pretty freeing because the format of the video game that they're playing, because it's portals and it goes to all these mythical lands and
Mm-hmm.
strange, you can pretty much come up with whatever you want as long as it makes sense, and so that gives us a lot of freedom, maybe too much freedom, but you also don't want to repeat yourself. So there are so many locations that after a while it becomes okay. What's something different we haven't done before, which is always cool, like being forced into a corner to think really hard. So it's part of the process. It's just you get four people together in a room, and actually not just the four of us. We had the first season. I wrote all the episodes, but the second season we wanted to branch out and have more voices and more experiences in the room, and so we had a summit with I think 5 or 6 other writers, some amazing writers, and so they helped in coming up with certain situations as well. So it's fun. It's just being a kid again, and like just thinking, wouldn't it be cool if, and then you get
Mm-hmm.
to do it.
Do you have a favorite location?
A favorite location. Um, I've always liked the spider caves in season one. I just like the design and the look of that. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so you did get to put in a lot of interesting places and characters, but can you tell us about anything that was cut from the show? Any interesting concepts or ideas? Anything that you're allowed to talk about that you don't think might be explored in the future?
Um, well, there's one little thing that I can think of off the top of my head, and it's probably a good thing that we didn't do it. But initially the concept, or one of the concepts I had for one of the characters was the polar bears were going to have two heads, and so because just to shock the audience into wow, this is definitely a different type of place, and who knows, maybe there's experiments going on. That's a lot of it too, is sort of building a world that doesn't necessarily exist but makes you think it exists in terms of like the mystery of it. Are there are they experiments, are they whatever, all that kind of stuff. You kind of want to hint along the way, and then ultimately find out what the real answer is, which is they're in this game. But so the two-headed polar bears was a concept I had, and then I think Greg said that's just going to be just too difficult, and it's going to look too strange, and their heads are going to be, and so that's one of the things that we cut, probably for the best, I think.
That'd be interesting. I wouldn't have been mad about two-headed polar bears, to be honest.
Well, you can email Greg.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just kidding.
So, did you ever come up with names for the characters on the other team that we saw early on in season 2 that got eliminated?
Oh, no, we didn't. We had no, we had their genders and we had their powers, but we had some concept of what they would look like, but no, we never actually. Maybe that's something the fan base can come up with. Is maybe we'll do a contest to name those characters. I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, we're open to suggestions.
Ooh, awesome. So here's some more, I guess, more lore or story-based questions. So Mira said that she knew Skeet since preschool, yet it didn't seem like Adam knew him well despite that. Even though they're best friends, he's best friends with Mira. Do you know why that is?
Yeah. Let me just think. Yes, Mira and Skeet were friends since preschool because they lived in the same area, and then Mira moved. I think it was like around age 7 to a different part of town. And that's where she met Adam, and they ended up going to school together. So she and Skeet knew each other when they were in preschool and maybe some early elementary grades, and then she moved. And they kind of kept in touch, but not really. And so that's why it's sort of like a different friend that Adam wouldn't have been aware of, really.
Oh, yeah, I really liked how they all ended up kind of being connected to each other. That was just really cool in season 2, all the relationships.
Thanks. Yeah, it's this show's been a lot of fun to do. A lot of fun.
Did you know about these, like, did you think of these relationships in season 1 or while writing it, or were you just like, when season 2 happened, you knew it was going to happen, you're like, okay, let's see how we can connect all these characters?
Well, it was a bit of both. We knew they were going to be connected. We weren't sure exactly how they're going to be connected. We also didn't want to, like, we wanted to hint at certain things. Like, for instance, the famous the kiss that Adam sort of rebuffs from Mira. Yeah. We knew what that was all about. We didn't want to do a typical love triangle with, like, it's just done so much, and we wanted to do something different and keep it mysterious. So certain things like that we planted knowing exactly where we were going in season 2. Their actual relationships and how they knew each other, we had an idea for, but we didn't really dive in until it was time to, like, okay, we've got a second season, let's figure this out now, and let's get into the nitty-gritty of their relationships.
Yeah, thank you for, like, I think a lot of fans caught on, to what was happening with Mira and Adam, and I thought that was pretty great because I didn't notice it at first. I was like, oh, huh. Interesting.
Yeah, it's it builds. We would have been fine if this. Well, obviously, we wanted a second season. We'd like to continue the story, but if it ended there and people, weren't sure what that was about and they just thought about it, that would have been fine for us too. Like, just thinking about that moment and wondering why that was happening. Yeah. Just the mystery of that, and people coming up with their own ideas of what that was about was totally cool with us. We didn't want to lead people by the nose too much on some stuff, so we kept it in tone with the show, which is it is a mystery for them. But at the heart of it, it's a mystery, but it's really about, the themes that we touch on throughout are, friendship, teamwork, acceptance, redemption, all those things that are human qualities that we want to touch on. And it's the same thing with a lot of myths. There's a reason that myths travel so well and have been with us, because there's something inherent about them, about that story, that touches us as humans. And so, and not to say that this is a myth at any kind of myth level, but in terms of story, those are things we just wanted to sort of be as human as possible with this show.
That makes a lot of sense. So one of, I guess, the big reveal, for season 2 was about, they're in the Holo life now, and that's kind of crazy. That's where they kind of end up, I guess, and they're on an offline server. So did you guys think about the implications of these characters now spending the rest of their life in there, since it's,
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, right? They get away from these people that are tormenting them, and but they end up in this paradise where they're kind of stuck there, and who knows how much they can really grow. So yeah, we have definitely thought about where they are, but I think that the short term success of getting to that world and not being in danger anymore is the goal, and they're together. Was the goal. Now for season 3, who knows what the goal might be. I don't want to say too much, but and hopefully we can get a season 3. But if we don't, they're very happy in that world.
Happily ever after with a snail there.
Exactly. Yes.
So one of my final questions is something I've always wanted to know. Is there a prize for winning a round of the Holo?
Oh, we kept that very generic and just basically, the trophy is it. There could be maybe there's some huge cash prize at the end of the tournament that somebody gets or goes towards charity or something like that. But mostly it's just it's just being winners for the Holo. That's really it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Besides all the stuff that happens, all the mental trauma you might get, it's a pretty cool concept. You get to
Well,
play
it is
VR.
cool. The idea of going into a game and not
Yeah.
knowing what your powers are and having to discover them is a really cool concept, I think.
Hmm.
And you could play that game as different characters without knowing what your powers are and having
True.
to replay the game a million different ways
Hmm.
to discover them. But yeah.
Would you say that a lot of the kids in the show, they have like they can practice at home, or how do you get good at the Holo, I guess?
Well, I think when you get to the finals, basically your team would move up the ladder. You have your memories at home. The device doesn't block your memories or anything like that.
Hmm.
You would probably have to discover your powers and work as a team and figure all that stuff out. And then, as you move up the ladder in the standings, you would eventually get to the finals where they do actually use all that power to block your memories and eventually scrape your memories without you knowing. But yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting to figure all that out. I loved how we learned that by the end. And so I guess I kind of don't have anything else to ask because you said, you're not sure about season 3 yet. And I guess the only thing else is there anything else you could potentially hint at of what we can look forward to if there is one?
In season 3, hinting at what? Well, let's just say season 3 may not be season 3. It may be something else.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Okay, is that mysterious enough?
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Is that a good enough cliffhanger?
Yeah, I think. I'm really satisfied with how season 2 ended. Like, I could see that, just like how season 1 was like, oh, okay, if that's it, that's a great show. Same with season 2, like even better now. But...
And that's thank you, because that's the goal too. Is that as long as the goal is to leave people wanting more, but at the same time being content if that were it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I really hope you guys get a season 3, and we can get it. Hope maybe 2 years or whatever. Like last one.
Yeah,
I'll be around.
Absolutely. As long as we're around, hopefully.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.